Hi, in this presentation, I'll be focusing on learning assessment and digital tools or programs. So, the content of my presentation shall be on a discussion on learning assessment and digital tools. 2. Emphasis on key insights derived from my readings. 3. Current digital tools or apps for learning assessment. 4. A showcase on a practical application of one interesting tool or app. 5. You see my conclusion and insight, and then finally, my references. Too often, we are prone as humans to jump onto the test stage of the backward design principle after setting our learning goals. However, Wiggins and McTighe think otherwise, and they propose that it is very important for instructional designers and teachers to think like assessors. This implies learning assessment and digital tools involves thinking like an assessor. Here, the assessor is the one who designs the assessment. Consequently, there are three basic questions that we need to answer as assessors. Number one, what kinds of evidence do we need to find hallmarks of our goals, including that of understanding? Number two, what specific characteristics in student responses, product, or performances should we examine to determine the extent to which the desired results were achieved? Finally, we need to ask ourselves, does the proposed evidence enable us to infer a student's knowledge, skill, or understanding? By asking these three basic questions, we'll be able to align our assessment activity with the cognitive level of the learner, the objective and the goals of the instruction, the curriculum of the instruction, which means our assessment, whether traditional or by performance, will be able to help us to establish the kind of evidences that we expect from the learner. This will help us to establish that assessment, whether formative, summative, or diagnostic, is not a means of getting grades. Rather, it's a way of establishing the kind of evidences for a successful learning. For instance, there is a difference between counting from 1 up to 100 and understanding what each digit in the number 100 mean. I will use the 6 facets of performance assessment to explain this better. The first one is explanation. We want to establish whether a learner can actually provide complex and insightful reasons for why they are producing a certain argument. For interpretation, we want to establish whether a learner can offer meaningful interpretations and translations after going through a learning activity. For application, we want to establish whether a learner can actually use an acquired knowledge in context. For perspective, we want to establish whether a learner can critique, justify a position, or see through an argument which is based on a theory or an ideology. For empathy, we want to establish whether a learner can watch and listen sensitively to the perspectives of others. For revealing or self-knowledge, we want to establish whether a learner can recognize their own prejudices and style, and even regularly reflect on the meaning of their own learning and experiences. With all this in mind, can we be confident enough that our proposed assessments permit valid and reliable inferences? This brings us to the question of criteria, and validity. That is what I'll be focusing on in the next slide. So, in order to establish whether our proposed assessment permit validity and reliability, we need to ask ourselves, what kind of criteria are we using? Criteria simply allows us to ensure that judgment-based processes are fair and consistent. Rubrics, on the other hand, is a criterion-based scoring guide that we use for a fixed measurement scale. The purpose of rubrics is to establish the degree of quality and proficiency of a learner's feedback. However, validity refers to the meaning we can and cannot properly make of specific evidences, including test-related evidence. So, with all this in mind, we can realize that there cannot be an excellent assessment tool without setting a criteria, rubrics, and establishing its validity. For instance, in reading a story, there are certain criteria that we expect from the write-up. Number one is engagement. How does the author engage with the readers? Number two is craftsmanship. That is how effective the literary devices and the language have been used in the story. Number three is character development. So, with all this in mind, when one is reading a story, there is a certain criteria that we expect the story to meet. So, after setting the criteria for your assessment, you need to also set the rubrics. So, the rubrics are the fixed measurement that we use in our assessment. Two of these are, we can use holistic rubrics or analytic rubrics. Holistic rubrics look at the entire work as a whole and provides an overall impression of a student's work. However, analytic rubrics divides a product or a student's work into dimensions and judges each dimension separately. For instance, an analytic rubric may set a mark for a student ideas, a student organization, a student choice of words, sentence fluency, conventions, and so on. So far, what are the key insights that we draw from the entire discussion? 1. Assessment must align better with curriculum goals for student understanding, which means the purpose of assessment should be for student understanding. Number 2, assessment are to ascertain the evidence of transferability of knowledge. Number 3, assessment must pass the validity, reliability, and credibility test as discussed before. Now let's go ahead and look at some currently available digital tools for assessment. In this slide, I present 5 digital tools that are currently available for assessment. The first one is Kahoot. It focuses on formative assessment, and you don't actually need a sign up to use it. However, mostly teachers use it by signing on their student, and its strength involves easy to make assessment and engaging assessment. However, it is very difficult to track individuals' progress in Kahoot. The next assessment tool is GeoGebra. This is a mathematical learning digital tool. It is for both summative and formative assessment. You don't need a sign up to use it. However, if you sign up, you get access to other privileges. Its strength is focused on geometry learning. The weakness of this app is its technical makeup. The third one is Google Classroom. It focuses on formative assessment, and yes, sign up is required. It integrates well with other apps. However, there are no standard based grading points or options. Next is Quizlet. It focuses on formative assessment. For sign up, it's a yes or no, and it's best for personal study. However, user generated answers may not be so reliable for Quizlet. Finally, is the Floop app. It is a summative assessment tool, and yes, sign up is required. It helps interaction between learners and the instructor, and it also fosters collaboration between learners. However, instructors cannot respond to student comments. Finally, I'll present a practical application of one assessment tool called GeoGebra by using this question. So this is a simple math problem that involves three equations. In Baton Rouge, an engineer wants to estimate the location for a roundabout R connecting three straight roads 1, 2, and 3. Her challenge, however, is to ensure the roundabout is located at the intersection of three roads. Assuming the three roads are represented by the following system of equations. Road 1, x minus 2y equals 2. Road 2, 2x plus 8y equals 16. Road 3, x plus y equals 5. Use a graphical approach to locate the best point for the roundabout. So this is a typical real-life problem that involves the use of geometry. And I'm going to present to you how we can use GeoGebra to do this. So a teacher may require that students use a tool like GeoGebra to answer this question and then share it with him or her. So this is how it goes. So we have this problem that we need to solve about a Baton Rouge engineer. So this is simply a three system of equations. So what we need to do is to enter the equations into um, the GeoGebra app. So I'm going to illustrate how to do that. So the first equation is x minus 2y equals 2. And then second equation is 2x plus 8y equals 16. The last equation is x plus y equals 5. So this graphical calculator, which is online and free, I don't need to sign in, go straight ahead to give me the solution to the problem. And if you know the concept being taught, you realize that the solution is just the point of intersection of the three straight lines, which is 4, 1. And that becomes the answer. And the student can go ahead to click maybe share, and then that is where they would have to sign in. Other than that, they don't need to sign in to use the app. I hope. So finally, what are my insights on using a digital app for assessment? One, I would say most of the time we need to concentrate on designing targeting learning goals, and that should take a good percentage of our preparation. This is based on my personal experience, and not empirically proven. So I give learning goals 35%. Assessment type should take like 25%. Deciding on what kind of assessment to use is key for a successful instruction. And then what kind of data app to use is also key. So data app would take like 20%. And then training and piloting. The teacher needs to learn how to use the app and then train the student on how to use the app. And that may take 10% of the preparation. Then finally, the rolling out may also take 10% of your preparation. Thank you for watching, and these are my references. Go ahead and comment. Thank you.